send a message through that platform as well. Number again for WhatsApp messages, 0809 444 0981.
Yeah, so the big, massive news. Actually, this broke right before the marketplace in the afternoon. So I talked about this yesterday on the marketplace, which of course our viewers can catch 5:15 p.m. Every Monday. In fact, you can catch us Bell Business News Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5:15 p.m. SoftBank, the SoftBank Vision Fund, led a funding round for Opay mobile payment service. It was a $400 million funding round. They spread the risk around with other investors and valued Opay at $2 billion. I mean, I would say it is still rippling through the ecosystem as to the news that was made yesterday. And essentially, Opay is supposed to be using those funds to expand into the Middle East and other parts of Africa. Remember, of course, that Opay was part of this, suite of apps that included Allride and other services. Allride, of course, was discontinued in Lagos State along with other ride-hailing apps due to, I guess, security concerns. But the valuation it's staggering. I mean, it's staggering for a tech company to be valued at that figure. If you think about it, the bank with the highest market cap in Nigeria is GTCO, and that's like at 824 billion naira. I think if you use $411 or 411 naira per dollar, that's a valuation of $1.9 billion, right? So Opay is valued higher than Nigeria's biggest bank. But if you take away GTCO, Zenith, Access, and I think Stanbic, it is valued higher as a higher value than every other bank combined. So it's huge. Now, of course, who is behind this? SoftBank. The SoftBank Vision Fund is no joke. If you go to SoftBank's website, this is by the way, their first investment in going into Africa. SoftBank has invested in a whole number of funds around the world. They claim to be driven by technology. They've had some hits and they've had some misses. One of the misses, of course, would be WeWork. But if you think about what it is that they are trying to do here, I think they are looking into the future and they're seeing that the payment space is where you need to be in the African continent, simply because of the fact that there's such a large gap in terms of financial inclusion and so many people that need to get access to payment services. So with this type of valuation here, they're saying that, okay, look, we think that Opay, who I understand transactions reached about $3 billion now in terms of transactions on their platform. Opay is very well placed. In fact, if you think about the payment space, this is part of why GTCO is basically now a holding company, so that they can, payments is one of their subsidiaries, yes. So that they can focus exclusively on that. Yeah. So, I mean, look at your pay stacks, the 200 million acquisition by Stripe. Look at this is another unicorn, right? It was not long ago that Kuda Bank, which is Kuda Microfinance Bank, which is a digital bank, had a $55 million funding round, which valued the company at $500 million. So InterSwitch $1 billion, I think Paystack another $1 billion. This Opay now, it's incredible, and it just, I guess, payments is where things are, because if you think about it, if you can get almost every person in a rural area on their phones to be transacting with financial services, you can sell them stuff. So this is the potential to be able to sell them more. You can sell them hopefully insurance and other accounts and things like that. The potential to be able to sell them these extra services is, I think, what is fueling these types of valuations. It's kind of high. A lot of people say, wow, the banks have, legacy assets and legacy, establishments here in Nigeria. They've been around. They have physical structures, but it's incredible. I mean, this thing has been making this. I'm sure the news is going to continue spreading around the world. But it just shows again, as far as Nigeria's tech space is concerned, this is where all the good news continues to come from.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's massive.
If you think about it, like, from a business perspective, it makes sense. If you can capitalize on 41.4% of Nigerians who have access to mobile phones, that's big money, waiting to be, shown in. So that's something that most companies will be looking towards.
It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. In other matters, the federal government is going to launch that's federal government of Nigeria. They're going to launch a 5-year economic development plan. It's supposed to replace the economic growth and recovery plan. This is their medium-term national development plan for 2021 through to 2025. It's also aimed at lifting Nigerians out of poverty. And so I think, according to Mr. Clem Agba, who is the Minister of State for Finance, Budget and National Planning, says that the plan is currently being reviewed by different stakeholders before it's going to be unveiled. And again, it's replacing the economic recovery and growth plan, which was from the 2017 through to 2020. That one lapsed in 2020. Did we actually see any gains from the last plan? That is the question.
What are we even using to judge the gains?
Exactly. I mean, you can use all the plans you want, but it's whether or not you that's the issue.
Really, what I would love a clear answer to is how is giving money, how effective is handing cash to people? How effective is it in getting them out of poverty, so to speak? Because I mean, how do you define poverty if somebody cannot afford what? And if you can define that metric, now tell me how handing cash to someone like that can bring them out of poverty in the long run. I'm not talking about in 5 minutes that they'll use it to buy food.
Exactly. I mean, look, Nigeria has a host of plans for every sector you can think of. There's the electrification plan with Siemens. There's Infraco company with I think that the CBN, African Finance Corporation, all working together. That's for infrastructure. There's CBN has another plan for manufacturing, healthcare. All these, they've got plans everywhere, right? So theoretically, these plans are supposed to be able to assist people to get out of poverty. I keep going back to the Jubilee Bridge that was inaugurated under the Ambode administration here in Lagos. I used to drive through there. I know what it was like when that bridge wasn't there, what the Ajah roundabouts, how long it would take to get through, the traffic, the impacts and everything. Once the Jubilee Bridge came through, it's cuts down the length of time in commuting and improve things. I mean, traffic because the issue is they allow downfall buses to line up the side of the bridge, reduces the amount of cars that can come there, causes traffic. So there's an issue of maintenance, but at least we saw what the impact was. So taking that at a macro level, when you look at other plans the government has, it's going to help. It will, but the issue is, can those plans be maintained? And getting them off the ground is taking too long. Planning, execution, and maintenance of that particular execution. That's the issues that the Nigerian government is facing right now. So I don't know. They can launch this plan and they can launch
how it goes
as much as they want, but I don't know.
We'll see how it goes. Exactly. Benito sent in a message here. He says, "Hi, Mustapha and Business Express. These $400 million investments into Opay Africa and Nigeria, I hope eventually it will help transform the greater Nigeria into a digitally inclined and value credit-based economy as per payments and against this current drive of cash-based payment economy. As credit payment economy ranks better than cash-based ones in Africa and eventually assist in financial inclusion, they drive with minimal onboarding fees and recurrent use charges. We need to move to a telco-based fintech augmentation with minimal bank lead CBN sandbox regulation as per NITDA proposed policy bill, which seems like a chicken scratch for funds and feeds. Daniel says, my issue with these valuations and the business of that is that the businesses do not have a model that the banks can replicate or cannot replicate, especially for the likes of Momo business. They depend on an infrastructure that still runs through the banking network largely. And it says your phone number is still not your account number. So when you think about it, many banks are still growing at a relatively high growth rate. TBX Steven says, morning guys, sorry to take you back, but please, what's the news about Opay? You have to go back to watch on YouTube, please. Just type Smooth FM Lagos in the search box as we move along, right? Benga says, you heard the Senate president say that the government should reduce on borrowing. If we do, then where will we get the money to run the country? Secondly, is it not the Senate that approves these loans? Goke from UK says, too many plans for this and that, just like too many codes change or updated in the GIT log. You'll likely get a code change conflict. These plans will end up conflicting with each other. We see that happening in ministries. Says, are you sure the CBN is not proposing legislation to discourage investment in fintech? Rotus?
Great messages. So I know, just for our listeners, very quickly, there's nothing. It's just Opay has been valued at $2 billion. SoftBank Vision Fund led a round of funding of $400 million that essentially valued them at $2 billion. So that's the big news. Look, how have fintechs been treated in Nigeria? Have they been treated well? Is it a friendly environment? We know that 4 of them have had their accounts, or 6 of them have had their accounts frozen for the next 6 months, while the central bank is saying that it's investigating infractions, FX infractions. So what does that do to them between now and then? And what does that do to another fintech that is thinking about wanting to launch in Nigeria? Allride was already shut down by the Lagos state government on security concerns, along with MaxNG, Gokada. They've all had to now pivot to logistics. So, you know, if the environment, as Benga Kamo has referred to, is the environment healthy for them? That the answer is no, right? So you have to get past the whole regulation. Yeah, you have to get past the whole regulation issue. In terms of plans for lifting people out of poverty moving forward, look, Nigeria knows what it has to do to get its acts together. And then, yeah, on the message on the bank-led model, that's how we're doing, that's how we're running things. Ghana used to be a bank-led model for financial inclusion. They switched to a telco-led model. We know Kenya has a telco-led model. And then also for the question, or rather the comments that question how far these payment services can go, it's legitimate because yes, they still rely on bank infrastructure. So it's a question of whether policy can allow them to run free. But it looks like there may be some fear of competition for the banks. But then look at what GTCO is doing. They're switching around. So there should be enough room for them to compete.
For everybody to play. Yeah,
people still trust their banks.
Yinka Bulu says, Rotus is there anyway to verify the source of these fundings or findings into the likes of Opay before Hush K comes to News Invest. Harry Mano says there are World Bank research studies that show the effectiveness of cash out programs for people who cannot afford $2 a day. Often the target is to use the money as condition for retraining to position them for more productivity. Thank you for that. And that insight brings us to the end of this conversation, Rotus. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the messages as well.
If you've missed any part of the conversation, please go to youtube.com/smoothfm Lagos. Just type Smooth FM Lagos in the search